This is Linkle. She's a character some of you may know from Hyrule Warriors Legends, and she is effectively the female version of Link, although she has her own backstory and character traits, similar to how each version of Link isn't exactly the same as the others, and they each have their own character traits that make them unique, but are all in the end reincarnates of the hero. But what makes Linkle different from these other Links is that she is not canon, since she is from Hyrule Warriors Legends, and that she's a girl, while all the other forms of Link are boys. And because of this, she is seen as what Link would look like and be called if Nintendo ever gave you, the player, the option to choose your hero's gender at the beginning of the quest. Because of Linkle, this brings us to the question of whether Nintendo will let you choose whether or not to be a boy or a girl in a Zelda game. And will they add Linkle or a different female version of Link to Breath of the Wild 2, as they've already shown that they've had the idea of having a female Link in a game with Linkle in Hyrule Warriors Legends. And so my answer to the question of whether Nintendo will let you decide whether or not to be a boy or girl in your quest in one of the future upcoming Legend of Zelda games, and whether or not that'll start with Breath of the Wild 2, is yes and no. And I understand that may be a confusing answer, but let me explain. When it comes to the Breath of the Wild 2 part of the question, Breath of the Wild 2 is a sequel to Breath of the Wild, and therefore will be a continuation of the story from Breath of the Wild. And so this will be the next chapter in the Hero of the Wild story, and the next steps that he will take in his life.
Although Ganon is gone for now, there is still so much more for us to do, and so many painful memories that we must bear. I believe in my heart that if all of us work together, we can restore Hyrule to its former glory. Perhaps even beyond, but it all must start with us. Let's be off.
Because of this, I can almost guarantee Nintendo won't add the option to pick if Link is a boy or a girl for Breath of the Wild 2, even though some thought that Link would be a girl in Breath of the Wild from the original trailers and promotional items displayed before Breath of the Wild originally released. The reason I say Nintendo will not add this feature for Breath of the Wild 2 is because Breath of the Wild 2 is a continuation of the story from Breath of the Wild, and it continues telling the story of the hero of the wild, Link from Breath of the Wild, and changing him into a girl all of a sudden would really mess up the story from a continuity aspect and just make things unnecessarily complicated. But this doesn't mean that we can't get a playable female character in Breath of the Wild 2, as Zelda may very well end up being a playable character for the user to control in Breath of the Wild 2, as she has been seen in the trailer with a shorter haircut and more of a travel/battle-ready outfit than she's had in previous games. Also, she seems to be incredibly involved in traveling around with Link and doing research as she so loved to do in Breath of the Wild. And so lots of people are speculating that Nintendo may add the ability for multiplayer, where one controls Link and the other controls Zelda for Breath of the Wild 2, or that there may be sections of the game where the character goes from controlling Link to controlling Zelda to complete a certain task. Either way, this would be adding a female character, even if it's not a female version of Link, such as Linkle. And now this may be getting ahead of ourselves, as we've only gotten one short trailer for Breath of the Wild 2 so far, but with it, Zelda definitely seems to have a more prominent role, and even if you won't be able to control her in the end, she definitely will play some sort of larger role than she normally does, as seen from what the trailer's given us so far. And so while I'd say that Linkle, or a female version of Link, is basically impossible for Breath of the Wild 2, I wouldn't say that a playable female character should be ruled out for Breath of the Wild 2 until more information is given to us on the highly anticipated sequel to Breath of the Wild. As for after Breath of the Wild, though, there definitely could be a future game in the Zelda series where they give you the option to choose if your main character is either Link or Linkle, or a different female version of Link that isn't Linkle but someone else. And then the game could be tailored to, if you play as the male, things are different, versus the female, where the female was able to go into a Gerudo town unhindered without having to wear a special outfit like Link does in Breath of the Wild because she's already a female. She's able to enter the town and just be herself. And one example of this idea is actually a mod for Breath of the Wild, created where the player can be Linkle, a female version of Link, and she even has her own female versions of all of the armor sets, and she can go into Gerudo Town wearing whatever she likes because she is a girl. It is pretty in-depth and pretty awesome, and you can check it out in the links below. I'll make sure to leave it down there. And as for the rest of this video, that's it. I don't think that there will be a female version of Link for Breath of the Wild 2, although we very well may get the chance to play as Zelda. In the future games, it's definitely a possibility that Nintendo will let you decide if you want to be a female or male version of the hero. But if you enjoyed, thank you for watching. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new and want to see more Zelda content, and let me know what you guys think, if whether or not Nintendo should add the ability to play as Linkle or a female character in upcoming Zelda games. I'll catch you guys later.